Do you feel strongly, because you are a former player, you were attached to this club, do you feel strongly that
Did you
whoever
get that idea from my jersey and my hat that I'm wearing right now?
maybe there's a hint of
Slightly.
it. Do you feel strongly that the next coach should have some sort of connection to the club? And I bring that up because a coach like Wilfred Nancy, who was plucked out of Montreal, had no ties to Columbus, Ohio, and was absolutely the best possible hire for the Columbus Crew. Do you feel that that next guy for the Kansas City Wizards, Sporting Kansas City has to have that affinity or connection, or it's just the best man available?
Are you suggesting that Wilfred Nancy is available? Well, is Wilfred Nancy available? Listen, there is a tweet out by me that says, call me Sporting Kansas City. I could be interested. I played there for 8 years. My name's already up in the stadium. Listen, I'm right next to Vermes' name. I should be the next guy in line. Let's be honest.
Would you take the job?
I would seriously consider it. That would be a dream come true. Now, there obviously would be some big conversations as to whether, I had all my ducks in a row. From an experience standpoint, but I will say, I'm in the UEFA coaching course right now, and I'm moving in that direction. So maybe this came a little bit too soon for me on that scale. But if they honestly said we'd love to have you, I'd be like, I'd love to come talk and hang out and see what's what. No, it would be cool to be back and involved with my former club for sure. I love being there. I loved all 8 of my years. Love the fans and the city and all the people there. So thanks for setting me up, Chuck, for that.
Yeah, of course.
Give me a call.
And we're going to clip this and send it to the club.
Clip it. But I do think that they could have an opportunity to think along those lines. You have a couple of our former players that are out there in the coaching space. You have Josh Wolf, who was with Austin FC, who's now the assistant at Houston Dynamo. Davey Ardo is still the assistant at Austin FC. These are my former teammates as well. So, yeah, I wonder if they would consider but ultimately, no, you got to go find the best. I agree with Tom. You go find a new, fresh set of eyes and or me. And then you just, and you go, just make sure that you have someone. And I agree with Tom for sure that you have to have a strong set of convictions because really that's what Peter was all about, right? He had a very clear idea of how he wanted his team to play, he wanted his organization to run, how he wanted everything to be. And that's what they know. So somebody's going to have to walk in. And if you're a little bit meek in that space, you might not gain the same type of respect. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. But good question. And what are the other candidates, though, Tom? Who do you really – Jimmy Curtin, obviously another Jimmy C.
Why would he?
I'm playing second fiddle to another Jimmy C right now. but outside of Jim Curtin, maybe Rob Valentino. Who else is out there that you think they would consider?
Yeah, so Jim Curtin is going to be the first name connected to every single job. And again, maybe it's just hope from fans, right? Even Montreal fans were like, oh, we should call Curtin. Jim Curtin turned down advances from Atlanta United, both when he was the Philadelphia Union manager last summer and then in the winter right after he was fired. They called again. The understanding was he would have been, if not the highest paid manager in MLS, definitely one of the couple. And he did not pursue even an interview with that team, with a team that spends more money than any other team in the league, who is going to have 2 open DB spots and an empty canvas to go and do that big job. Why would Jim Curtin consider Kansas City if he already showed, I'm not ready, I want to take some time off? If he turned down Atlanta and the money and the prestige and everything else that comes to that job. So, Jim Curtin, yeah, Kansas City should call him. I don't think that that's going to go very far, but maybe things have changed. Another name that comes to mind for me, Gio Savarese. I think that he would make more sense for, say, in New England if something changed there in the near future. Or
what are you suggesting? Future? Caleb Porter's not going to last very long time?
By the way, Tom, have you heard anything about New England? Just given the sense, I know this is a little bit off track, but that if they didn't win this week at home and the schedule is only getting more difficult, that New England would move on from Caleb? Or
so I got a few people telling me that, but you know how it goes. That it's not like that's written in stone, right? But again, they won this weekend. The schedule gets even harder moving forward, so maybe that's something that'll happen. All I know is that they're not going to waste another year. It's kind of like I think what Kansas City were trying to do now. Like, hey, you can tell yourself it's early enough that things can turn around. You get the new manager bump, everything else. So anyway, like that's why I think that Gio Savarese makes more sense over there. But those are the 2 names that I think are going to be connected with every job right now. Again,
Right.
because Gio Savarese is somebody who interviewed for a bunch of places. And again, Jim Curtin is the best name on the market. And he is going to get his pick at any job he wants. And because he's already turned down the opportunity of Atlanta, I doubt that he would take a phone call here.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I wonder if you did want the job, how much you'd have to be sifting through all the remnants of Peter Vermes for the next couple of years, right? It's just going to take time. And that might turn some people off as well. I don't know, maybe not.
And another random thought, I don't know if it totally fits into where we're going right now, but I've said for years that I think Peter Vermes, the head coach, should have been extremely disappointed in Peter Vermes, the sporting director. I do wonder if we would have gotten to this stage if they had a sporting director in earlier and somebody who had, again, Peter Vermes is always going to have a big hand in everything, even if it's like Greg Berhalter brought in Greg Broughton, brought in Mikey Stevens, they still have other people in the front office that were already there. So even if he kind of has final say, having an actual respected CSO that he's working with, not that the CSO is working for him.
I don't know. I coming in with Peter, there's no way Peter would have answered to anybody else, especially after the
and he earned that too. I want to be clear.
He did. He earned that currency for sure. But yeah, we've seen a lot of. It's normal to kind of surround yourself with people that are like-minded, right? You want them to. We sometimes they're called yes men, but I mean, in a more polite way, we would say like-minded people. So it's not easy to be able to hire somebody that might be challenging you on the regular. So I definitely respect the coaches and sporting directors that are trying to do the same. So Chuck, we've discussed this on the pod. Every time there's a bad result from Sporting Kansas City and we end up talking about it, we're like, when is it going to happen? It happens. Are you surprised? Ultimately, this should have been the first question, but
you know what? I'm surprised. They gave him a 5-year contract last year, so it was heading towards. Man, he's been here a long time. I think we do need a new voice in the soccer room, a new leader, and yet they still gave him a 5-year deal. That's the head scratchers. Okay, well, Peter Vermes gets sacked now. He's saying, I got 3 years to kind of just be paid like I'm running the whole organization. Yet I'm just chilling at home and spending time with my family. So it's I think that's the puzzler for me, Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a Vanni Sartini shout. What do you say to that, Tom? As maybe a fix? I don't think they should go with Carey just because he's been tethered to Peter for so long. So they should.
What about a European guy? What about a European manager, Tom?
Dude, drop some names.
Absolutely. I hope and I think that they're going to do a full scale coaching search. And again, I would lean towards you go with somebody from out of the Kansas City zone. And again, a European or South American, somebody like that would make sense. It is difficult. You need to find the right person and somebody who cares to understand and cares to learn MLS, because we've seen coaches that come here and don't respect or appreciate what the league is and the uniquenesses that they're in. But a guy like, say, Patrick Vieira at NYCFC worked out great. Ronnie Dyla worked out great. He kind of going down the line. There are plenty of international managers who have succeeded. And if they get the right guy and the right person that cares and respects the league and wants to learn, then it could absolutely work. I would like that, Chuck.
Marcelo Bielsa. Tom Bogert just did Marcelo Bielsa. He's coming in.
No, Eric Ten Hag to Sporting Kansas City.
Let's start it now. That'd be great. Steven Gerrard is out of Saudi Arabia, so maybe
Gerrard. Robbie Keane's been Ferencvaros. Let's just see if Robbie Keane's available to come to Sporting Kansas City.
I will say Robbie Keane wants to work in MLS. Like that is something I know for a fact. So maybe he can get a call.
Wow. So do you think there's any number twos out there currently? Any assistant coaches outside of Josh Wolf, who we threw out there?
No, there's plenty. But so I think for this one, it doesn't make sense to go with the number two. I think it makes sense to go with somebody who has some experience, because this is going to be a really, really difficult job to go into. But some of the number twos, if we go in that direction, like Yohan DeMay in Columbus is somebody who's absolutely a future head coach in this league. Maybe Kenny Arena. You look at anybody on that Cincy staff as well. Like those are ones that make sense to me. But
Dom Kinnear? Again, you think Dom Kinnear?
Yeah, I remember I was speaking to somebody and I was like, oh, does Dom even want to be a head coach? And I didn't know if he was kind of done with that phase of his career. And the way it was described back to me was like, have you met anybody who would be offered a head coaching job and be like, no, I'd rather be the assistant? So, all right, good point. Fair enough. That might make sense, but I feel like that would be too much in the similar vein of Peter Vermes, like Mark Dos Santos at LAFC. So I think that there's plenty of in-league options, but look at what look what Minnesota did. Like Eric Ramsey. It's easy to say in hindsight because of how great of a hire he's been. But that's a rising young manager who is really thoughtful, really considering what he wanted to do with his career. He turned down some options in England and then ends up blowing Minnesota away in the interview process. They take a leap and we'll hire the 33-year-old who's never had a head coaching job before. And that's not always going to work out, but that was a guy who, spending some time with Eric Ramsey, I'd bet on that dude, like very quickly being around him. So if Kansas City are able to find a guy like that, much easier said than done, but that's something that would work too for me.
Look at you getting to the end of the video. All right. Very proud of you. Now, if you want more average to good content, this is your channel. Go look at other videos, playlists. We have it all figured out. For more of the good stuff, then you got to make sure you hit like on this video, hit subscribe so you don't miss anything, and then turn on your notifications so you know when we're going live or if anything drops right when it comes out. We'd really appreciate it. See you next time.